There was a big controversy about people gatekeeping Metallica because there's new people discovering Metallica through Stranger Things, as if that's a bad thing. And articles were written about these gatekeepers and tweets were sent. And I looked for these gatekeepers and I can't find them. And that tells us a lot about our society, and I'm going to break it down for you in this episode here. Welcome, metalheads, to Heavy Metal Philosophy. I'm your host, your sommelier of extreme metal and blue-collar philosopher, John Barbas. Make sure you stick around to the end of the episode for this week's Riff of the Week. And you might expect that because this episode is about Metallica, that the Riff of the Week this week would be Metallica. But I'm not brave enough to challenge the YouTube algorithm copyright gods in such a way, so it won't be Metallica for the Riff of the Week. You just have to stick around to the end to see what it is. Now, as I said in the intro, this week we got the glorious scene with Eddie. And I'm only going to show still images because, again, I am scared of the YouTube gods. But we got the glorious scene where he plays Master of Puppets as a diversion, and the other character exclaims afterwards, "Most metal ever." It brought joy to me. It was very cool to see a metalhead portrayed in a heroic light, not in a joke, brunt of the joke sort of fashion, but as a heroic figure. Much appreciated. I really think that overall in the metal community, it was nearly universally praised. As universal as things can get on the internet. As you all know, you can take what seems like the most reasonable position. You can take a position that is backed up by centuries of scientific testing, and somebody somewhere on the internet is going to feel the need to bring you their unsolicited devil's advocate point of view. You can literally take any position and you will find somebody that will disagree with you. And unfortunately, in today's society, that's the way news is done now. I'm quite used to this being an MMA fan. If you're an MMA fan and you read mixed martial arts journalistic sites, you will see that a lot of the articles are written about what certain fighters or promoters tweet. You know, there's not really a lot of investigative journalism in mixed martial arts. Said fighter tweets said thing about this other fighter, and then there's a back and forth on Twitter, and the MMA journalists write stories about it. And that's the way journalism is done. And unfortunately, in metal, that is also the way journalism is done. Now, of course, in metal, you still have the traditional journalists that will report this band is touring through this area, this band is releasing a new album on this date. There is, of course, still factual journalism, but there's also a lot of, here's some weird tweets that metalheads have said. And that's what happened with Metallica and Stranger Things. You know, the usual suspects tweet that there's people gatekeeping Metallica because kids are discovering Metallica from Stranger Things. And after these articles are written, if you go on Twitter, you put in Metallica Stranger Things, you will see all these tweets with all these people in the metal community rightfully decrying people trying to gatekeep Metallica, because that is absurd. Metallica is the biggest rock band in existence. But what you won't find when you search Metallica and Stranger Things is the actual people that they're complaining about doing the gatekeeping. You can scroll all day, which I did, unfortunately, and I didn't see anybody saying, oh, it's bullshit that kids are discovering Metallica through Stranger Things. One person tweeted or replied to in a YouTube comment or something, "I'm sorry that there's all these fake fans discovering Metallica the Stranger Things," and then Metallica was like, it's all good. If they like this song, they'll like other songs. And then the media reported on this one interaction, and everybody decried it as if there is an epidemic of metalheads gatekeeping Metallica when there are none. There's, in the grand scheme of things, it might as well be zero. Now, of course, there is that one person, and there's probably two more that you can find somewhere, but I didn't find them. The overwhelming majority, as near universal as you can get on the internet, thought it was cool and are rightfully saying you shouldn't gatekeep Metallica. I mean, let me read you some of these tweets. So again, if you just put in Metallica Stranger Things in the search on Twitter, you will find hundreds of tweets like this. I don't understand people that get mad about younger generations enjoying Kate Bush and Metallica because of Stranger Things. People discover music all over the place. TV and film is one of them. Stop gatekeeping. Of course. But also, nobody's gatekeeping Kate Bush. Literally zero people are telling people that, oh, you can't like Kate Bush. That's non-existent. Here we got another tweet. Metallica fans throwing fits because Stranger Things making it trend as if Metallica isn't one of the most popular bands in existence. Right? But again, where are these gatekeepers? I keep finding tweets like these, but not the actual gatekeepers. This is one of my favorite ones because it's such a solid point to a thing that doesn't exist. Imagine being an adult and criticizing children for getting into Metallica by watching Stranger Things and not the real way, which would be by being born 30 years earlier. I mean, does it get any better than that? That is the best way to burn a gatekeeper. My problem is they don't exist. I also love this one. I love how people are gatekeeping Metallica because they were on Stranger Things. You can get their shirts at fucking Walmart, bro. Pipe down. They aren't some obscure noisecore band. Right. The time where you could gatekeep thrash bands and death metal bands is over. If you want to be true Cavelt black metal, then all right, sure, go ahead. But all the other bands, there's a fucking store in the mall that carries their merch. It's over, y'all. Here's a prominent journalist tweeting, imagine being a kid and getting into metal through Tony Hawk soundtrack or something and having full-grown adults being dicks to you. Just let folks discover Metallica and Kate Bush. You were there once too. I'm saying there's nobody gatekeeping Metallica. There's definitely nobody gatekeeping Kate Bush. But that is a great point about the Tony Hawk soundtrack because, you know, that's how I discovered the Public Enemy Anthrax collaboration, playing Tony Hawk when I was a kid. And by the way, I tried to get my son into metal a bunch of times and it's not really happening. He would tell you, I like metal. He likes a few bands and songs. He likes Slipknot and stuff, but he doesn't like metal the way I like metal. And I was like, well, I'm not going to force him, whatever. And then the movie Zombieland comes out and he's all about For Whom the Bell Tolls because that was on the Zombieland soundtrack. Did I get mad about that? Of course not. I was thrilled. That made me so happy. Nobody's mad about that. Nobody was mad about it in Zombieland. Nobody's mad about it in Stranger Things. I looked all over the place for this. It would seem like there's a wave of gatekeepers out there and I could only find that one interaction. It reminds me of the red cup in Starbucks. A few years ago, Starbucks, around Christmas time, like they always do, changed their coffee cups to red, but usually they would have some sort of Christmassy graphic on it, like a pine tree or something. And this time it was just a solid red cup. And the internet was flooded with articles about how there's all these people that are outraged about the war on Christmas. So many people are angry at the Starbucks red cup. I don't know anybody in real life that was angry about that red cup. I'm sure that there was a Facebook post somewhere, and then some journalist wrote an article that was like, look at all these people that are mad about it. And it was just this one Facebook post. Meanwhile, I live in the South, y'all. It's not like I live in some liberal bubble where everybody's cool. I live in the South. This is evangelical country. This is the heart of the culture war. I've seen people get outraged about all manner of things that society is doing. The Starbucks red cup ain't one of them. I don't know anybody that was mad about that cup, but there was articles written like it was a huge deal. It was not a huge deal at all. And that's the point that I'm trying to make about the internet, is it warps our perceptions about society. If you read the internet, you would think that there's these masses of people that just are offended by the tiniest bullshit. When in reality, it's a couple dozen Twitter accounts and then all the bots that copy paste it. Real people aren't mad about this piddly bullshit. We just had the whole Roe v. Wade thing. There's something that people give a shit about. You know, people that are fighting for abortion rights, they really care about that issue. And people that think that it's baby murder, they really care about that issue. Nobody cares about a red cup or the fact that some child might discover Metallica through a TV show versus, I don't know, some imagined non-existent rite of passage that has never existed and definitely won't exist while they're a stadium arena band. Nobody thinks that way. And again, I'm sure you can find a tweet or a Facebook post somewhere. But there's 7 billion people in this world. There's 350 million in the United States. 5 tweets or 3 Facebook posts does not a wave of people make. You know, I don't have a lot of faith in the intelligence of my fellow human beings around me, but I got a little bit more than that. People are having a hard time buying groceries right now. I don't think that they really care about Metallica and Stranger Things. When you read articles that are saying there's all these people that are outraged, be skeptical, because journalists have to put out so many articles per whatever period. That's their job. And they're looking for things to write about. And they can't go and interview, people everywhere all over the world. They have to scour the internet for information just like we do. And if they see a few tweets, that's a good way to write an article, but it's not indicative of society writ large. Not only is that a good way for them to mine material, but they also know that you're gonna click on it. If they say, oh, all these metalheads are outraged, you as a metalhead, you're gonna click on it. And all the people that tweeted, how crazy is this that people are gatekeeping? Of course, just spreads it out more, which creates a trend, and then maybe that person's article will show up in the trending section. It just all is serendipitous. It's not like an evil cabal plotting to steal our attention or anything. It's just the way the world works. I would just like to put my 2 cents in and say, just because you see somebody write about a few people tweeting doesn't mean it's real. The internet's not real life. As I said in the How to Deal with Online Harassment episode of this podcast, just turn your phone off. And suddenly the world looks a lot different. When you go outside and you touch the grass and you talk to your friends and you call your friends from out of town that you haven't talked to in a while, the conversation is a lot different than it is on Twitter. That's the way that I would suggest you perceive the world. Now, am I saying never look at Twitter? Of course not, because then you don't see what's happening in the wider world outside of your friend group. It's possible to be in a Twitter bubble, and it's also possible to be in a real life bubble. It's important to gather data from multiple sources, not just Twitter, not just real life, not just print articles, not just my YouTube channel. Books, everything you can get a hold of, consume it. Before we do the riff of the week and close the show, just want to say, every weekend there's new metal albums that release, and exclusively on YouTube, I break down the best ones so that every week you're getting new metal. So if that appeals to you, head on over to the YouTube link. It'll be in the description. And click subscribe. We're inching ever so closer to 666 subscribers. And then, of course, that might be YouTube exclusive, but the podcast is on all platforms free of charge. So however you like to get your podcast, just hit subscribe there. And if you like Metallica and Stranger Things the way that I did, hit the like button if that's available to you. Now let's do the riff of the week. for the riff of the week, because the podcast airs on YouTube, of course, I can't do Metallica. That's a quick way to get a claim on the channel that I don't want. So, because the topic is gatekeeping, I'm going to go with the band Gatekeeper, and the name of the song is Blank Canvas. Check this band out. And remember, nobody's really mad. Enjoy Metallica, enjoy Stranger Things, listen to all the metal, read philosophy. I love you.